Betty Jo Frank and daughter Keitha Frank Turner was stabbed to death Sunday. And this man, 44-year-old Albert Turner, Frank's son-in-law and a Texas corrections jailer, is wanted for the murders.
Hello, welcome back. And if this is your first time joining us, welcome. Today we're going to talk about a story that hits pretty close to home for me. As a matter of fact, this story took place in the same town that I went to high school. To bring it even closer, it happened seamlessly across the street from the high school I went to. Sadly, 2 lives would be lost as a result of the actions of one individual. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Albert Turner, a 44-year-old prison guard with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, went on to be accused and tried for the horrifying crime that shattered the peaceful Sunday morning of December 26, 2009, in the Bayou Park neighborhood of Rosenberg, Texas. It was supposed to be a quiet night, but as first light of dawn crept over the neighborhood, the calm was shattered by a frantic 911 call. All the operator could hear was screaming, children crying, and a man grunting. Albert was a prison guard known for being abusive at home. On December 26, 2009, his wife, Keitha Turner, decided she had had enough. She packed up their belongings and took their 4 children, all under the age of 13. To her, the last straw had been drawn. They left the family home and went to her parents' house on Chestnut Drive in Rosenberg, Texas. When Albert came home and found a note from Keitha saying that she had left, he was furious. He grabbed a quote-unquote gift for her and went straight to Keitha's parents' house. The drive would have only taken around 4 minutes, which would not have given enough time for an extremely angry Albert to calm down and think about his future actions. When he arrived, he attempted to rush into Keitha's parents' home, but Betty Jo Frank, Keitha's mother, blocked him from entering and speaking with Keitha. That night, around midnight, the children heard their mother screaming from her bedroom. One child saw Albert leaving the room with a knife. The knife was bloody and in his hand. He had cut Keitha's neck. Another child witnessed Albert stabbing Betty Jo so profoundly in her throat that it severed her windpipe and cut into the bone. When officers arrived, they stumbled upon a scene straight out of a nightmare. Inside the house, they found Betty Jo Frank, age 59, lying dead, and her daughter, Keitha Turner, age 39, barely clinging to life. Both women had been brutally stabbed. Despite their efforts, Keitha later succumbed to her injuries at the hospital. Betty Jo and Keitha were deeply connected to the community as the wife and daughter of Dr. Gene Frank, a well-known pastor at the Church of Living Waters in Rosenberg. Albert, an Army veteran and correction officer since 1992, had worked at the Darrington Unit in Brazoria County and later at the Jester Unit in Fort Bend County. After the attack, he fled the scene, leaving behind a trail of devastation. Witnesses to the horrifying crime included some very young children and Betty Jo's husband, a pastor at the Church of Living Waters. The family and community present that Sunday morning for church leaned heavily on their faith to get through that unimaginable tragedy. Authorities were on high alert, searching for Albert, who was last seen driving a maroon Honda Accord with Texas tags 494JFY. With family in Florida, police had alerted law enforcement agencies along the I-10 corridor, hoping to catch Albert before he could disappear. The once tranquil Bayou Park neighborhood began to live under the shadow of a manhunt, waiting for the capture of a man accused of turning a home into a crime scene. On December 29th, a fisherman discovered Albert's car in the Chattahoochee River in Georgia, raising suspicion about his faith. While some speculated suicide, Albert's brother-in-law, Darren Frank, believed that he was still alive and would eventually surrender. A long 3 months after the gruesome crime, Albert was captured in Concord, North Carolina. The arrest happened thanks to the sharp-eyed residents who recognized Albert from a TV profile on America's Most Wanted. Albert had been on the run since December 2009. The dramatic arrest occurred at the Carolina Mall at around 12:30 p.m. Concord police reported that Albert was taken into custody without any trouble. Albert claimed he had been dropped off by a church group who believed he was homeless. Again, earlier that day, America's Most Wanted host, John Walsh, had profiled Albert, and viewers in Concord recognized him as someone they'd seen around town. Police confirmed Albert's identity through fingerprint comparison. Albert was handed over to the U.S. Marshals for transportation and extradition back to Texas. However, throughout that period, Albert's children lived in constant fear, worried their father might return. His capture brought a sense of relief to the community, but the tragedy of that December would never be forgotten. In 2011, a jury found Albert guilty and sentenced him to death. However, in 2018, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals reversed the conviction, stating that Albert's lawyer should have better represented his interest. During his 2011 trial, his lawyer conceded guilt to avoid the death penalty, even though Albert claimed he was innocent. In 2017, another jury determined that Albert was mentally competent during the 2011 trial. By September 9th, 2021, a new jury was ready for his retrial. This time, 3 of Albert's children testified against him for the first time in court. The jury listened to all the evidence and after 4 hours of deliberation, returned a guilty verdict. Keitha Turner and Betty Jo Frank gave their lives to protect their children and grandchildren from Albert's abuse. This was a statement said from Special Prosecutor Sherry Robinson. She went on to say, "These children, now amazing young adults, bravely told the jury about the horrible murder they witnessed." Chief Domestic Violence Prosecutor Chad Bridges added, "Statistics show the most dangerous time for family violent victims is when they leave their abusers. Keitha and Betty Jo were murdered less than 24 hours after Keitha left Albert. This is why we are committed to providing services and protections for the family violence victims." Albert was tried in the 268th District Court before Judge R. O'Neill Williams. Since the state did not seek the death penalty at the retrial, Albert received a life sentence without parole. The case was handled by Chief Domestic Violence Prosecutor Chad Bridges, Assistant District Attorney Leslie Morton, and former Deputy Chief of Domestic Violence Prosecutor Sherry Robinson, who, in fact, came out of retirement to see the case through. Justice was finally served for the Turner and Frank families, ending a tragic chapter filled with fear and courage. What's crazy about this story to me is the fact that I was still in high school when it took place. And later on in life, I was in the process of going to the police academy, and this was one of the stories, one of the cases that they shared. I attempted to find the 911 call. However, with the case not getting the coverage that it probably should have because of the size of the town at that time, I wasn't able to obtain it. However, I have heard it firsthand, and it is bone-chilling. So it's probably best that I wasn't able to find it to put it in the video. But with that being said, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure you subscribe, leave a like, and comment your thoughts down below. It really helps, and we appreciate the support and love here on the channel. But until next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and keep an eye out for anything mysterious.